of the 18th century. Because that was my field in intellectual history. Got my doctorate at Brandeis, so I'm doing this for a while. Hi, Shabbos. Who has? Yes, you're going to do that if you need to do it. If that. Oy vey, twice. Hi, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you here in person, and those who are out there in the ether. I'm glad that you're with us as well. So we'll begin on with a little bit of a nigun. A nigun means a tune without words, to get us into the spirit of being right here, right now. Wherever you've been, you're no longer there. And wherever you're going, you're not there yet. So the challenge is to be here now. I We rise as we turn to the candles. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. We take in the light of the candles 3 times, connecting to the light within, and we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you all. So you may be seated. We'll begin with a beautiful poem on page 2. And I always let people know this poem originally was not part of the Kabbalat Shabbat service. By the way, Kabbalat Shabbat is the name of the service we're doing. Receiving the Shabbat. Why does Shabbat have to be received? Doesn't it just happen? If you're not open for it, you're not going to get Shabbat. You've got to let the Shekhinah, the indwelling presence, enter you. And entering, it means you have to open up. And Shabbat gives us an opportunity because we're not in the workplace, we're not in the public eye, we're doing Shabbos. We don't have to be that protective and defensive. Because, in the real world, you got to be protected. That's what it is. Shabbos, you get a chance to say, there's vulnerability and I could live with it, particularly if I open myself up to others. What Shekhinah is, if you look at the top words on page 2, Yedid Nefesh. Shekhinah is you who love my soul. Imagine to love someone's soul, you who love my soul. So on Shabbat, we make Shabbat. He says to machen Shabbos, to make Shabbos. You got to make it. Got to build it up every week, again and again and again, right? Because it's a state of being that few of us, maybe many of you can, but few of us can keep going for 7 days. Monday eventually shows up. Oh, Monday. This Monday we'll have one, but still. So this poem is based on the 4-letter name of God. If you look at the first letters of each of the paragraphs, it's Yud He Vav He, the unpronounceable name, Yud He Vav He. And the tune is easy. We'll sing one paragraph in in Hebrew, and one in English. The same tune goes with the words. So please join me. Yadid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha yaharutz avdecha kemo ahayal yishtachave elemol hadorecha yerav lo yedidutecha mino fetzuth v'chol toam. How splendid is your light, which worlds do reflect. My soul is worn from craving for your love's delight. Please, good God, do heal her and show her to your face, so my soul can see you and bathe in your grace. There she will find strength and healing in the sight. Her joy will be complete then, eternal her delight. Vatik yemuna rachamecha v'chusana al benahuvecha. Ki ze kama nitzof nitzavti lirot mehera betiferet uzecha elechamda chamda libi v'chusana ve'al titalam. Oh, help my lover spread your canopy of peace, enfold all human beings, give all pains their cease. Your presence on this earth plane do make known to us, and we shall respond with song and with dance. Rush, my love, be quick, the time for love is now. Let your gentle favor grace us as of old. Just take a moment as we do our Cheshbon HaShavua, our accounting of the week. So for every psalm, we have 6 psalms, and then the Chadodi, and then the 7th psalm. For each psalm, it represents a day of the week, a different part of the Kabbalistic tree of life. I won't get too complicated in that, but if you look at the page, you'll see there's a chart of the Kabbalistic tree of life. You'll know what each day corresponds to. So what we try to do is we try to give people an opportunity not to schlep into their Shabbos all the stuff that's been stumbling blocks for them during the week, right? I promise you there'll be more stumbling blocks ahead. Life is not bereft of that. Don't worry about it. But not to carry it in. leave that behind, and every day try to recover if you can. It's hard because our lives are so frenzied. Try to recover one little gem, one gem of something that was wonderfully positive on each day, from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we'll make a bouquet of that. Beautiful, beautiful gems. Make a beautiful tiara, beautiful necklace, something, whatever it is, that will pull together all of those things that we hope will bring it to Shabbat and make Shabbat sweet for us this week. Our first psalm is on page 3, Psalm 95. And you're allowed to sing. It's okay. Otherwise, I feel I'm working to a mural. Okay. Lechu neranena l'Adonai nai aletzu yeshenu nikadma fanav betoda bizmirot narialo ki legadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim Asher biyado mechkerei haaretz v'toafot harim lo. Ay, 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 Arbaim shana kud bidor, v'yom aram to'eh levavhem, v'hem lo yadu drachai, asher nishbati be'api, im yevod el menuchati. That was Sunday and now Monday of this week that has passed. For Psalm 96 on page 5. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing a new song. And the earth sings too. I sing in my song, blesses your unsayable name. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo. Pasru meyom leyom Yeshuato. Sapru vagoyim kevodo. Kechol ha'amim nifleotav. Ki gadol Adonai u'meholal meyot norahu al kol Elohim harai ki kol Elohim be'alilim va'Adonai shamayim asa od hadar lefanav oz v'tiferet be'mikdasho. Avul Adonai, Mishpechot Amim, Avul Adonai, Kevot Sheoz. Avul Adonai, Kevot Shemo. Siyu minecha, Uvau lechatrotav. Hayra yishtachavul Adonai, B'hadrat Kodesh, Chilu mipanav, Kol haaretz. Imru vagoyim Adonai melech avtikot tevel ba'aletimot yadine amim v'mesharim yismechu shamayim v'tagel haaretz yiramayam omelo yalo sadai v'chol asher bo. Hayrai, az yeranenu kolatze Yoa lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz yishbot tevel betzedek v'ya'amid be'emunato. Hayrai, yam better be bum bum. Hayrai, hayrai. Hi, rai, rai, rai. Hi, rai, 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 rai. Hi, rai, rai, rai. Tuesday, Psalm 97 on page 6. Just spend a moment. Tuesday. What can you salvage of sweetness from that day? Could be a small thing. Could be a large thing. But whatever it is, harvest it. And bring it in. Light, it says at the end of the second paragraph in English, the translation of this psalm, it says, light is sown for the tzaddik, the just one, and simcha, gladness for those who are ethical. Tzaddikim, just ones, rejoice in Yah and give thanks to God's holy name, to the consciousness of Yah's uniqueness. Though we're not used to the word Yah, Yah is a traditional way of making a sort of a nickname for the four-letter name. You may have heard Hallelujah. Nothing I'm making up. It's been there for a while. So it's very fascinating how we basically, a lot of our Psalms and this are really talking about emotional life. They're not intellectually to be studied. The Psalms particularly are always been there for us in times of joy, in times of sorrow. Someone you used to get sick, what do? Let's start reading Psalms. Now, that was not necessarily going to help the person, it was going to help us. We're trying to help the person, right? Remember, those people who care about other people need support. And that's what Tehillim or Psalms did for us for literally 2,500 years. It's kind of long to see this kind of thing. So it says, Or Zaru ala Tzadik. Look at the last two lines in the Hebrew. Or Zaru ala Tzadik. Ole Yisrael Simcha. Or Zaru ala Tzadik. Ole Yisrael Simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'haya vehodu lezech kodsho. Simchu tzadikot b'haya vehodu lezech kodsho. Wednesday. What beautiful flower can you pick for our bouquet? Sing to Yah a new song, Psalm 98, page 8. Sing to Yah a new song, for Yah has performed marvelous things. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Again, sing a new song. Sing a new song. It is through our singing new songs that we remain alive and alert. Zamru Ladonai B'chinor, it says. Zamru Ladonai B'chinor. Let us sing praises to Yah with the aid of the harp and the melodious voice, with trumpets and sounds of the horn. Shout before sovereign Yah. Let the sea roar and that it contains, the world and they that dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let all the mountains sing for joy before Yah, who Yah comes to judge the earth. And God will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity. Lifnei Adonai kiva b'yishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel b'tzedek, v'yamid b'meisharim. Thursday, page 90, page 9, Psalm 99. In the middle of the page. Yea, raise Yah, who guides us, and worship at Yah's holy hill. For Yah, who guides us, is unique and holy. make God into a verb and not make it into a noun is very important. What happens when you use a noun for something? Anyone know? You cement it. It's no longer dynamic. Chair. Chair stays chair. It's a noun. And I sort of own it, by the way. When you give something a name, you also have a sort of a property. So if you get away from this thinking and see that the Yud He Vav He, the unsayable name, is only capacity, the only way you can't even get close to saying is, it's the only way. So if you're alive, you're constantly repeating the name, breathing in and out. And then Eloheinu, instead of our God, is who gods us. Dynamic. With me when I'm 6, with me when I'm 16, with me when I'm 60. And I have different relationships with God when I'm 6, 16, 60, but it doesn't matter. It's dynamic as I am dynamic. It's not some figure that is held hostage. You don't believe in my God. Off with your head. It's fluid. And that fluidity is what life is. It's fluid, not static. So that's, if there's anything you take home from tonight, take that home. It's not a noun, it's a verb. We are nouns, but we're also verbs. We also are static. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu ya Eloheinu, v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ay rai 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 rai, ay rai rai rai, ram da rai rai rai, ay rai 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 rai, ay rai 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 rai, la li la la, am da rai rai rai, ay rai 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 rai. Hi, 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 rai, 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 rai. Oh, hi, rai, hi, rai, 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 hi, rai, 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 rai. Psalm 29, on page 10, Friday. Today, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, the eve of the Holy Shabbat. What can you pluck from this very day and bring it to Shabbat? I often say that one of the ways of maintaining Shabbos consciousness, which is a special consciousness of basically seeing the world or feeling the world as it ought to be and not as is. Me'ein olam haba. It is as if it is the world to come. That's how they describe Shabbat. Right? We're free of our responsibilities. We're able to extend community to our friends. We eat. We basically are redeemed in a way. Semi-redemption, not full redemption. So one of the ways we carry it on is by living our lives during the week with a sense of Shabbat. So how do you do that? I often say it's a very wonderful thing. Go past a bakery and you see a fantastic cake. I mean, a really good cake. And you're not going to eat it during the week. You're a little bit, it's ostentatious to have that cake. You say, I'm going to buy it L'Kavod Shabbos in the honor of Shabbos. I'll eat it Shabbos. That really gives you a Shabbos consciousness, right? All right, you see something that you really want to open up a bottle of something, Kavod Shabbos, for the sake of Shabbos. So you can bring that consciousness in to the everyday. And it really helps you, I think, in realizing that you don't need immediate gratification for everything. Very hard in our culture. People want immediate gratification. But you delay it and you say, oh, I'm going to have this for Shabbat. That, by the way, doesn't have to be anything edible. It could be a book I'm going to read. CD. I don't think they have CDs anymore. A CD I wanted to listen to. That's an old reference. I'm an older guy. But that's really how you keep it. Keep it not by making things a boundary around it. You make it by bringing it into yourself, and then you can bring it into Shabbat with you. The last words on page 10. Friday's Psalm for Friday. Adonai lemabul yashav. Vayeshev melech leolam. Ya'oz li'amo yitein. Ya yivarech et amo Shalom. Page 12, Lechadodi, beautiful poem, which talks about that we're coming to, as it says, if you look at the words, page 12, the large type, come, my friend, to greet the bride. Shekhinah, the indwelling presence, is called the feminine, if you will, part of the Godhead, if you want to use that word, the feminine part of ourselves. And we have both masculine and feminine sides, all of us. And it says to welcome, and I like this beautiful translation, which is a very accurate one, Pnei Shabbat, the faces of Shabbat. There isn't one face. Nobody in this room has the same face. Okay, I'm looking, just true. Nobody here has the same face. I can't see most of your faces anyway, you're wearing masks, but I assume they don't need the mask, you don't want the same face. And what that means is that there's going to be different kinds of approaches to Shabbat. Even with a very Orthodox community, there's never an identical Shabbat in anybody's home. You can't copy anybody else's Shabbat. You got to approach it with your own face. You have to face it in your own way. So page 12, it's a beautiful poem. And let me remember, I've got to stream a tune, there's so many tunes. You have to let the spirit enter you and decide what is it I'm going to sing right now. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela shamo v'zochor b'diborech hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad hayechad u'shemo echad l'shemu l'tiferet ve'letila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor ha'beracha verosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh v'machshavat tchila lecha dodi lekrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Migdash melech Ir melucha kumitzi mitoch hafecha rav lach shevet v'yemei kabacha vehu yachmol alayichem la lecha dodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela hid nari meyafarku milivshi bigdei Tifartecha mi al yad ben Yishai beit halachemi Toravo el nafshi geyala lecha dodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Awake, awake, my love, awake, your light has come. Arise and be light, rise now, arise. Sing your new song, the splendor of God is open through you. Lecha dodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela lo tevoshi velo tikalemi mati tokachi umatemi bach yechesu ani ami venivnita Iralti la lecha dodi lekrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Those who destroyed you now are destroyed. All who devoured far, far away. Your God takes pleasure in your joy, just as a groom makes love to his bride. Lecha dodi lekrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yamiru smol tifrotzi v'et Adonai taritzi al yad ish vehem parzi venismecha ונגילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. We turn to the door and invite the Shekhinah in. Boi b'shalom. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. This service of Kabbalat Shabbat was put together by the mystics in Tzfat in the 16th century. So for us, it's contemporary. We just read a psalm from 2,300 years ago. This is like new stuff. And it caught on. It did very well. Made it into all the prayer books and everything. So they sang it out in the fields. Right? And that's where we're supposed to do our stuff, is outside. We have buildings because it gets cold in the winter. Right? Rains, it's wet. But these buildings have sort of curtailed our capacity to see what's above and to ground ourselves in what's below. There's always media between us. So if you get an opportunity to ever daven, do a service outside, in the summer we do a number of them. It's really unbelievable. Just, you understand that one of the things that we do on Shabbat, two things, the major things we do on Shabbat, we'll hear it when we sanctify the wine before we make kiddush. It's called, for two things, and bear this in mind. These are the two essential things that people just gloss over. One is Yetziat Mitzrayim. Shabbat is liberation from Egypt. Liberation. We're no longer slaves to our habits, to our cell phones, to our computers, whatever you're a slave to. Shabbat gives you an opportunity of freedom. And the second one, which I love, is Maaseh Bereshit, the work of creation. The work of creation. Shabbat is a memory, is a reminder of the work of creation. So to be created and to be free. Wow. It's really a very important thing that people just gloss over. They've been singing it for 50 years, 60 years. They don't even pay attention anymore, right? But pay attention when we say Kiddush. Those are the two essential things. Shamor, and to observe the Shabbat and to guard the Shabbat, and to be aware that the Shabbat offers us an opportunity for an expanded consciousness. This is very important, expanded consciousness. So now we officially begin Shabbat. Glad you're here. All that was just to get us ready. And here we are on page 15, Psalm 92, the Psalm for the Sabbath day. It's always accompanied by a sister Psalm on page 16, Psalm 93. The Shabbat is often portrayed as the queen, right? So she always has an entourage or a maidservant, however you want to call it, who accompanies her, right? That's if you're a person with a certain status, people are there with you. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat. It is good to give thanks to Yah, to sing praises to your exalted most high name, Elyon, the Most High, to declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness in the nights, with an instrument of 10 strings, with the navel, the dulcimer, with the solemn sound upon the kinnor, the harp. For you, Yah, has made me glad through all of your works. I will be joyous and exult in the works of your hand. How great, Magadlu, are your works. Yeah. Your thoughts arise from the very depths of creation. A brutish person will not perceive this, nor will a fool comprehend this. Tov lehodot lahaya, ulezamer leshibcha elyon, lehagid b'haboker chastecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot alei asor, ve'alei nahaver, alei higayon בכינור, כי שימחתני, יה בפעלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן, מה גדלו מעשיך היה, בעוד עמקו מחשבותיך, איש בר לא ידע, וכסי לא יבין את that was good. Now, the end of the psalm is beautiful. It says this, it said, the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow like the cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Yah, they shall flourish in the courts of our God. They will still bring forth fruit in old age. They will be juicy and rich with sap, to declare that Yah is upright, my rock, in whom there is no falsehood or wickedness. The last four lines. Tzadikat hamar yifrach ke'eres balvanon yizge shetuvuli beveit Yah bechatzrot Eloheinu Yah brichu o genuvun beseva deshenim verananim yeyo lehagid ki yashar yatzuri velo avlata bo. Middle of Psalm 93, page 16. Amikol od mayim rabim adirim ishbereyam adibamarom Adonai adibamarom Adonai eidotecha emenu meod leveitcha nava kodesh Adonai liorech yamim, Adonai liorech yamim. Those among us who are in mourning or are commemorating a yortzeit, the mourner's Kaddish is on page 17, and we will respond. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei l'chol bet Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehi shlom rabba min shemaya, v'chayei yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekutsha brechu. Te'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran b'alma v'yimru. Yehi shlom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Say shalom b'bromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru. Amen. May be seated. Well, just to keep you up to date about the what's going on, Jews used to tell the dates not by saying December 30th, right? Especially those living in Poland or those living in Saragossa, maybe Saragossa they might have, but they would do it by saying, "Oh, it's today's the third day of Parshas of the Parsha Vayeshev," and everybody knew what day it was because the liturgical cycle was established. So we are now approaching a wonderful Parsha, which concludes 13 chapters of the Joseph story. Those of you who are familiar with the Joseph story, you probably know it at least from Technicolor coat, even though there's no mention of it, the Technicolor coat in the actual text. It just says stripes, but okay. So the story, of course, this week is a very potent one. They're all potent. They're very dramatic. They're fantastic stories. I mean, as stories go, they're fantastic stories. They're written with great artistry, and it's beautifully done. Dramatic. See it presented as a pageant. And today and this week, it's Vayigash the Yigash, approach. Yehuda approaches, and we get the very famous reconciliation where Joseph reveals himself to his brethren. And Judah, who is not the first son, but following in the tradition of the book of Breshit, the first book, all firstborns are overturned. I call it the usurpation of primogeniture. Primogeniture gets pushed aside. That's a very common theme throughout. And Reuven, who's the firstborn, is now basically pushed aside to a certain degree. And Yehuda approaches Joseph. Now, what does that mean? Why is that a big deal? Why do you start this parsha with? They were very clever by the people who divided them up to give you a cliffhanger last week, so you come back maybe and listen to the rest. By approaching, he means he breaks the etiquette. He breaks the space. And we don't know physically what it meant, because when they first came, Yosef, or his name, Egyptian name, Safnat Paneach, that's his Egyptian name, which the text tells us about, which means probably solver of mysteries, because he helped Pharaoh interpret his dreams, if you recall. And they have the protocol. He's up there, and you're down here. That's the way it is. Right? That's the way the shul used to be, by the way, when I first came here. Everything was up there, and you were all down here. Very clear who was running the show. So he does something radical. He probably steps up and says, I have something to tell you. And he whispers in his ear. Wow. If this would have been, he could have been taken away immediately. The guards could have jumped on him and said, you can't approach the king or the viceroy. You can't do that. So it is his passion to protect his youngest brother, Benjamin, which is the test that Joseph puts before them to see, have they changed over the last 30 years that he hasn't seen them? When they threw him in the pit, have they changed? When the same situation came along, where they could have said, okay, take Benjamin, as long as we get what we need to eat, we'll go back home. They couldn't do that. First of all, they couldn't do, could Jacob, their father, would die, because he was in mourning for Joseph all these years. So he breaks with, and takes a real challenge he has. He breaks the rule and he steps up and he approaches Joseph and he whispers in his ear and he tells him basically that there's no way they're going to give away Benjamin, and I'll be in his place. If you need to have a hostage, take me. So he notices that over the 30 years, they've changed a little bit. They're not that self-centered. And he's changed a little bit because he was very self-centered. If you study the story of Joseph, he's a real pain in the butt. I can see why people would be upset with him. He's always boasting and bragging. But all that dreams have been fulfilled. They all have come and they all have bowed down to him. As he had this first dream that he told them at the beginning of the saga. And by that, going forward and being told in this intimate way about what the situation is for them, Joseph can no longer keep it together. Even last week, he starts having issues of wanting to break out in tears. He has to leave the room and cry, and then he washes his face. It says, it's very interesting how it gives you these details. And he washes his face and he comes back. Or once he has an interpreter there, he makes believe he didn't hear it and all that kind of stuff like that. But he understands what's going on, obviously. So he reveals himself. I am Joseph, your brother. I mentioned in Torah study this week that there was another episode that used that term, which was very poignant and dramatic. It was during an event surrounding what is called Vatican II, if anybody ever remembers that. We have a certain age. Remember, it was 1965, and it was a very important event which wanted to recalibrate the relationship of Catholicism and Judaism. Rabbi Heschel was involved, a number of very important scholars and rabbis, and they worked on this to get a declaration, Notre Estate, our world. And the Pope was Pope John the 23rd, of blessed memory, a really remarkable individual. Cardinal Roncalli he was, who had worked hard saving Jews, by the way, in the Second World War, whereas the Pope was less eager to do that. And when they came in, here he is, dressed in vestments, pretty heavy duty vestments in your Pope. You're really terrific stuff, on the throne. And the Jewish delegation came in and he said, I am Joseph, your brother. You may not recognize me because of all this accoutrement, the accessories of my job, but I am Joseph, your brother. And obviously, he knew the story as well as anybody else, the Pope. But it was a really remarkable kind of sentence saying, I may now have been put into another situation, but I'm still your brother. And of course, that was the conference that said that no longer is the Jewish covenant broken with God. Very big deal. And this is a really big deal because Catholicism operates under what is called soteriological exclusivism. There's only one way, and it's their way. But to say that the covenant of the Jews is not broken, and second, that Jews should no longer be missionized. That was not what and came out very strongly against anti-Semitism, et cetera, which we hear today from Pope Francis as well. So that's an example of how this story permeated a real life situation and how dramatic it was for the Jewish delegation. And they were probably as filled with wonder as the brothers of Joseph were in this week's reading. So what does he say to them? He says to them, guys, don't beat yourselves up. He literally uses these words. Don't beat yourself up. You have no idea that my going down to Egypt was for a very, very noble purpose, and that was to save lives. Your lives, because I made sure there would be food for people during the years of famine. And he uses that term. God sent you on this, however he understands that. But he now says you were part of a larger picture that you weren't even sure of. So don't beat yourselves up. However, and this is a question we raised today in our meditation community, can you forgive such things? Can you forgive? What does it mean to forgive? What does it mean? Are you forgiving to make yourself feel better or to make the other person feel better? Why do people ask for forgiveness? So we came up with thinking that for certain things you can forgive, but you might not forget. That's something else. You may forgive, but you don't forget. But Joseph really seems to forgive them. And what he asked them to do is now go to your father, our father. And he asked, by the way, one of the things also he has is my father still alive? That's his first. Now, the inklings that something was strange, Yehuda picked up, as I feel, when he approached them, because he kept asking them personal questions. If you remember last week, do you have a father? How many are you? Et cetera, et cetera. He was much more than if you're just going to sell, grain to people. He was interested in them in a way. So maybe that's an inkling that maybe he could approach this person, whatever. And then he says, bring your father down, and the way back, don't argue with each other. Don't beat yourselves up. They bring Jacob, of course, you know the story, and eventually the next week we'll have the blessings that he gives his children before he dies. And after he dies, they're in trepidation, the brothers. Why? Now with Jacob dead, maybe he'll do something that he wasn't prepared to do before, is take revenge, right? Jacob kept telling me, if I lose one more son, like Benjamin, I'm out of here. I'm going down to Sheol, the netherworld. And then two, he says, no. I will not take vengeance upon you. On the contrary, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad. And then the word gets out, palace intrigue. Somebody's always there with a glass at the door. And the word reaches Pharaoh that Joseph's brothers have arrived. So it's a great story of reconciliation. And it's one of the many stories we have of reconciliation in the book of Genesis, which are not talked enough about. The enmity is always what people remember. It's very sad. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, a great scholar and rabbi, wrote a book about that. It's called Not in My Name. It's about terrorism, about interreligious hatred. And he says, look at the stories. Look at it. Go to the end of each story. Ishmael, right? And Isaac will come together. I don't think they become buddies, but they come together to bury their father. They have this respect for each other. Maybe they said a few words, the first interreligious dialogue, if you want to call it, right? Maybe they said a few words. Jacob, right? And Esau, well, we read not too long ago, they meet and they embrace. And he has great fear about this trepidation because he knows that Esau was to kill him. And he down deep believes that maybe he deserves to be killed. But they reconcile, they hug. And here too, Joseph and their brothers are able to reconcile. So we read the stories only of the clash and the this and that, because somehow that feeds the prejudices we already have. And we don't want to acknowledge the fact that, guess what? Reconciliations are possible, even in the worst situations. And yet we are still far from it. And what I hope by reading these stories all the way to the end is that we get an idea that the inspiration for this is not necessarily something of another sphere of comprehension. It's there. You don't have to be a fabulist to figure it out. It's there. It's in the text itself. So I'm hoping that we will have that this week, with reading of Vayigash, that we really press people out there. I'm not sure exactly how to do it. I wish I did. But really to say to people, it's time to reconcile. It's time to reconcile. We are in danger of basically self-destruction. And I think that's really, and it's surprising to me because many of these people read the Bible on a regular basis and don't come up with this understanding of the story. They don't come up with it. So my hope and prayer as the Shabbat comes in, as we are here, and you out there as well, that we will be able to, first and foremost, try to reconcile things within ourselves. Because all of us have a lot of moving parts. First, not easy to do. Second, try to use Shabbos as a chance to reconcile with your friends, your family, the things that we love to do in Shabbat anyway, be together with each other. And third, become active in the world, so maybe the world can also find a way of a reconciliation. And of course, with all that we see in front of us, it's hard to think that that can be. But this is our Mishigas, this is what being a Jew is, to believe that there's something beneath all of the fracturedness we see around us. Oneness. Crazy, right? Adonai Echad, one. But wait a second, we're just killing each other. Wait, what? Well, stick with it. You'll see underneath, it truly is all one. And that's what our striving is, our messianic striving as Jews, is to make people appreciate the one. So I'm going to invite you now to our evening service on page 19. If you're able to rise, please rise as I invite you to our evening worship with the words on page 19. Praise the eternal who is praised. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. You may be seated. The first paragraph before the Credo, the Shema Yisrael, on page 19, the blessing of light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher bidvaro mariv aravim, v'chokhma poter sharim, u'tfuna mishane iti. U'machalif d'zmanim misader et ha'kochavim, who arranges the stars, b'mishmeroteim b'rakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla creates day and night. Golel or mifnei choshech, and light passes to night and night to light. Golel or mifnei choshech v'choshech mifnei or. Umavir yom, and day passes. Umehevi laila, and brings on the night. Umavdil ben yom v'laila, and they divides between day and night. Yah Tzevaot Shemo El Chai v'Kayam, O living, true existence, Tamid always creates the organizing principle of reality. Yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah hamari varavim, and we respond, Amen. The gift of love, of Torah, of guidance on page 20. Ahavat olam bet Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot u'kim u'mishpatim אותנו לימדת, על כן יא אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורותיך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם ועד. כי חיינו ואורך ימינו, אורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ועבדך תסיר ממנו עולמים, ברוך אתה יא אוהב עמו ישראל. And we respond, Amen. Page 21, the Shema. This is not a prayer, it's a reading. It's called Kriyat Shema. It's not tefillah, it's not a prayer. It's a statement. Or as many scholars say, it's like a shrine. That's what it is. It's screaming out into the world. Remember, it's all one. Don't get fooled. Don't get fooled. There's something beyond conflict. Hear, oh, those who wrestle with God. Israel means God wrestler. He who wrestles with God is victorious. Four-letter name which cannot be pronounced is the one who guides us. The four-letter name is one, is unique, can be translated in very different ways. So we take a full breath for each word of the Shema. You want to use the Havaya at the bottom of the page. It's often used because it's the four-letter name arranged in a different way. The Kabbalists often use that. They call it the Shem Havaya. And take a full breath, close your eyes or open your eyes as you like. But just let this sense of this warning or this Geshrei, this Yiddish Geshrei, permeate you in some way. Shema Yisrael Havaya Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Let's read together. V'yohavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol miodecha v'hayu hadvarim oele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shirantam levanecha v'dibartamam v'shivtecha v'beitecha v'lechtecha b'derech shochmecha u'kumecha וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובישעריך. A beautiful interpretation of the second paragraph of the Shema is found on page 24. 24 on basically V'haya im Shemoah. Let's read that together. If I carefully follow the way I have been shown, the way of justice, mercy, and humility, serving a life with the fullness of my life, then the earth will flourish with righteousness and riches. Pure rain will fall in season, the earth will bring forth her bounty, my labors will flourish, and the fragrance of life will scent the air like fine oil. There'll be food enough for all, and all be able to partake of it. No one will exploit another, for no other shall be separate from the one. But beware, if I follow another path, pursuing gods of narrow desire who separate one from another in quest of power and control, then the heavens will rain poison. Creation will fall ill, and I and all will soon disappear from this good earth. Therefore, I impress these words upon my heart to quell anger. I bind them on my hands to stop violence. I set them before my eyes to see the one who is all. By word and by deed, I teach them. I repeat them at home and away, morning and night. I write them upon the doorposts of my home and upon my gate, that my dwelling be a haven of ignorance and delusion. Then my days and the days of my people will endure forever. One generation passing righteousness and kindness to the next, all the days of the earth. Adonai Elohechem Emet. The third blessing following the Shema is found on page 25, in the middle of the page. The blessing of redemption. Umalchuto v'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe Miriam v'nei Sol Shira v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh norat hilot osei fele norat hilot osei fele. Your children saw the rulership, splitter of the sea before Moshe. This is my God. They responded and said, Adonai yimloch leolam vaed v'nemar kifadanu Yaakov v'golomia chazak mimenu baruch atah Goal Israel, and we respond, Amen. Only on Friday nights, evening service, do we have this paragraph. But in the evening service in general, this seems to be the prayer that was said before going to bed. It got incorporated into the service because not to tell you this, but you should know the evening service is a lot of controversy if it's required. Whether or not you needed it, because there's a morning service and a twilight service. Whether there's need for an evening service was unclear. But this prayer goes back a long way. So let's read together on page 26. Cause us, eternal our God, to lie down for well-being and help us arise, our ruler to life. Spread over us the shelter of your well-being and fix in us good counsel in your presence. Save us for the sake of your name and shield us. Keep far from us enmity, illness, strife, hunger, and fear. Keep oppressors from confronting or pursuing us. Let us be covered by the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector and helper. Mercy and compassion is your rule. Guard our going out and our coming in for life and for well-being from this time forth and forever. And spread over us the shelter of your well-being. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads over us the shelter of your well-being, over the people of Israel, over Yerushalayim, and over the entire world. And let us say, we rise for the declaration of Shabbat on page 27. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotav berit olam ha'beni uven b'nei Yisrael oti li'olam. Kisheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i shovat vayinofash. Following the Chatzi Kaddish on page 28, the silent Amidah begins on page 29. There's room for reading in English, reading the commentaries, reading in Hebrew, whatever it is. Some of us take advantage of these two beautiful faith quilts that we have, part of a wonderful project that the community got into. This is the faith quilt of Chesed, loving kindness, which comes down from above. And this is Gevurah, strength and boundary. You need to have both in order to create the spiritual balance. And there's the middle, which is us. And so, however, if you need a little bit of more loving kindness, you can stand there during the silent Amidah. If you need a little bit more backbone, because you've been too loving, remember, you can abuse a child by too much love and letting the child do what they want. So you have to have balance. The sea would overcome the earth without the balance, right, of having a shore to stop it, right? So if you need that, you can stand there. Most of us can stand in the middle. The Chatzi Kaddish, the Kaddish uses it as a device to separate parts of the service. ילמד ברכנותיו וימליך מלכותיו בחייכון וביומכון ובחייכון בישראל והגלה ובזמן קהרי ואמרו ישמר אבא מבורך כל עולמי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויפואר ותרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילא וכל בחטא ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה Da mihiran velema v'yimeru. Amen. Als je tijd die tafel in de tegen. Er gaat er May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable unto you, O Yah. Ose shalom b'mromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'ale kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. If you're able to rise for the aleinu, it's found on page 44, followed by the Kaddish. Page 44. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו גויי ארצות, ולא שמנו משפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו עמהם, וגורלנו עם כל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For the sovereignty is yours, and you will reign eternally in honor. As it is written in Torah, the eternal will reign forever and ever. And as is said, the eternal will be ruler over all the earth. And on that day, the eternal will be one, and God's name will be one. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Vayomahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Those who are in mourning or have a yahrzeit, the mourner's Kaddish is found on page 48. Please respond to those who are saying Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah v'yalma divra chilutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol bet Yisrael v'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach v'olam v'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha richu. Leila mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. One of our wonderful board members, David Nyman, who was very nice, David Neiman, to come and be our usher tonight, is going to give us some announcements. Use that, I guess. Yeah. Is it on? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes, it's on. This is so people who are on YouTube can hear what I'm saying. So join us tomorrow for Shabbat services if you can. It's the 50th bar mitzvah anniversary for Mark Dwartson, a long time member, and he'll be laning and giving a devar, I believe. A programming booklet for what's coming up from January to June will be in the mail shortly to members, so look out for that. On Thursday, January 5th, that's this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. on Zoom, you can find that in happenings, is what is anti-Semitism and why is it so hard to understand? Join Rabbi Lev Meyerowitz Nelson, who's the Director of Leadership and Learning at Teruah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights, for a progressive discussion of anti-Semitism. Friday, January 6th is a Shabbat dinner for B'nai Mitzvah families. And let's see what else. And Thursday, January 26th, the Hadar Boston Nigun Circle with Rabbi Deborah Sachs-Mintz and hosted at TBZ will be presenting on the power of Nigun, chanting, Nigunim. And that'll be happening here on Thursday, the 26th at 7:30 p.m. in person. And that's pretty much it. And happy secular New Year to all of you.
Yes.
And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much, David. If you're able to rise, we'll rise for Kiddush. First, we'll sing Shalom Aleichem. If you want to follow the words, it's on page, I believe, 48, or is it 50? Yes, it's on 58. At 50, if you want to follow. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashavarei, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu li l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Setchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Savrei Chaverai. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Borei peri agafed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher kiddishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho b'yavav ratzon. Hitchilanu. Zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila. Hamikro kodesh. Zecher etziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta. Yodanu kidashta im kol oamim. V'shabbat kodshecha. V'yahava v'rotzot. Hinchaltanu. Baruch atah haya. Mekadesh HaShabbat. If you could help me hold the challah, would you be able to help me? Stand right over there, right? There's one for you to hold. Can you hold it? You can hold it. I have a big one for you. Want to hold the little one? Don't need it? No? Okay. Let me just. Baruch atah Adonai l'cholam asher kiddishanu v'tzivanu al nitilat yadayim. You know what? When you all come together, we'll connect with the challah. When that's such a gigantic crowd. You come closer to me a little bit, sweetheart. Okay. Ready? Everybody connected? What do we say? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Don't get too many crumbs, but come by here and take a piece of challah.
There are also a few snacks out
On the way out, yeah. Well, I'm very glad that all of you joined us, and we're happy to have the Shabbat together. Tomorrow morning, it'll be Torah study at 9 a.m. live, not on Zoom or on YouTube. And our service will be on YouTube and live at 10 o'clock. As I said, we're reading the conclusion of the story of Yosef, and we trust all of you will join us. Have a happy second of New Year. Let's hope it's better than the one in the past. The bar is very low, so we hopefully will be able to jump over it. Shabbat Shalom. Practice above and beyond whether. Because that's what happens when you come to the States. It's fanatic. Silence, silence, silence. Oh, basically, it's like another kind of stuff. Charles Lura, what's happening? We're going about the men, we're going up. The new horizon, we're going under. I hope so too. And the second one is not. The one after. Yes, because it's the very first story for it is on that. That's not a mess. Oh, the other place is dark. Yes, I know, but no one said that that makes some was not giving them say for the other. Probably most of the. Yes. Okay, so it's missing from the one that. Yes, we have a lot of that. Look at that. So they say it's surprised that. I mean, it's basically technology. It's what I thought. You do what they.